Hello, VC. This is Tony Perla here. Over the last couple of weeks since I've been secluded in my home, I've been watching a lot of videos, especially vinyls from the vinyl community. Guys like Mazzy, Norman Maslov, the Music Man, Bob Bradley, Melinda Murphy. Who else do I have here? Spin the Round Store, I like them too. Channel 33 RPM, 8 Vinyl Low, all of them very good. The Jazz Shepherd, fantastic Jazz Shepherd. Boy, if you ever really get a chance, if you want to know about jazz, contact that guy. He is tremendous. Vinyl Eyes, Too Many Records, Vinyl Richie. I've watched all of them, and I've commented on a few of them. I thought they really did a good job, and I decided to step into the frame myself. I am not an audiophile. I don't know what guy came to the band with a twanger and twanged in the background, and then eventually sold 35,322 records off the twanger. I don't know any of that stuff. I know I like good music, and what I've seen on the vinyl community is good music, and I just maybe wanted to step into the fray a little bit. So I hope I have some more to come. I don't know how long this will last. This may be my one and only video, but this is my introduction. I've watched for a long time. Like I said, I was a video voyeur. A little bit about myself: I was a teacher for 37 years in social studies in Western Pennsylvania. And one of the main reasons why I did this, I was watching Mazzy talk about San Francisco and some of the San Francisco bands. And he said, if you have a band from your hometown, let's talk about it. And I had to sit there and think for a while, and then I realized that he showed a couple pictures, or a couple of albums, I'm sorry, of Tommy James and the Shondells. And our little town in Western Pennsylvania has, let me see here if I can get the album, has a little bit of a background with Tommy James and the Shondells. Now, Tommy, and this is only from what I understand and what I know and what I've read. If I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will comment and tell me the finer points. But Tommy James and the Shondells did start out in a place called Niles, Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. They were called the Echoes. I think when Tommy James joined them, he was like 12 years old. They were called Tommy and the Tornadoes, and his real name wasn't James, it was Jackson, from what I understand. They had a little 12-year-old Tommy Jackson and the Hurricanes. I think they put out an album. I'm sorry, they had a 45. They had a single. I think it was Long Ponytail, something like that. And they were a regional band. They were out of Michigan. They traveled to Indiana, Illinois, and the record label was very regional. They didn't have any national distribution, so not too much going on here. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, they morphed into Tommy James and the Shondells. He changed his name, and they became the Shondells. They do another song called Hanky Panky. I think it was 1964, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure, like I said, somebody will correct me in it. 1964. Regional, did well, but hey, it was regional. No distribution, nothing. And as to make a long story short again, as I said, after a while the band breaks up. Well, in comes a guy from the Pittsburgh area, and this is how the Pittsburgh connection becomes, or the Latrobe connection where I live, comes into play. A local DJ, a guy by the name of Bob Mack. Bob Mack, his real name is Bob McConnell. Bobby Mack was a record collector turned into a DJ. Gets all these records, decides to make it a business, becomes a DJ. He starts going to these local venues. He rents out, I think the biggest one was a Masonic Hall somewhere in Pittsburgh. I want to say Crafton, could very well be. Crafton. Kids started flocking to these dances. He was a DJ, went around the area, he was renting venues. He buys a record collection off a student from Notre Dame. And in that pile of records that he bought from the student of Notre Dame was this 45 called Hanky Panky. Now, Bobby Mack was responsible for bringing a lot of acts into the Pittsburgh area. Chuck Berry, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, I believe, Little Anthony and the Imperials, the Isley Brothers, the Dell Vikings, the Skyliners, brought them all into the local area. And there's even another little dance venue locally in Latrobe, where I'm from, called Harry's Dance Land. And he brought them out there in this little town. We had the Skyliners, the Dell Vikings. There was also another place called the Red Rooster. Now, this is a little bit later. That I saw the Temptations. I saw the Little Anthony and the Imperials, Eddie Holman. I saw those guys there. And he was responsible for bringing these groups locally. And he buys this. I digress. He buys this collection of records off the student, and there's Hanky Panky. Well, he starts playing Hanky Panky. Western Pennsylvania went crazy. They went nuts, and a lot of people started calling to find out where they could buy a copy of this Hanky Panky. Could not find it. Could not find it. One thing leads to another. They get into Bob Mack calls Nick Sensi. I think of the distribution out there in the Midwest. They get together. They can't find any more of these records. They get together and they bootleg. They make 80,000 copies of Hanky Panky. Sold them out. Sold them crazy. In 1966, Hanky Panky becomes the #1 seller in Pittsburgh. How does that lead into my town? Well, they call Tommy James. They get a hold of him, and they say they want you to come to the Pittsburgh area. They want you to promote the song. They want you to play it. Tommy James goes out and tries to get the guys who were in the band originally. Can't do it. They're out to other things, or they just can't get in it. So Tommy James decides to come to Pittsburgh by himself and promote the song by himself. Well, he meets up with Bob Mack, and they go to this little place in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, a place called the Thunderbird Lounge. And playing at the Thunderbird Lounge was this group from Latrobe, Pennsylvania, home of Arnie Palmer, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, summer home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Fred Rogers, etc., etc. I digress. And there's this group playing there called the Rack on Tours, Latrobe group. He listens to them, says, "Hey, they don't sound too bad." After they do their gig, he goes up to them, introduces himself, and he says, point blank, "Would you guys like to be the Shondells?" They thought about it for a minute and said, "Sure." The rest is history. That's my little town, Latrobe, Pennsylvania, home of Arnie Palmer, summer home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, St. Vincent College, where I went to school, Fred Rogers, and so on. But this is the record that I like the most out of what they did. Tommy James and the Shondells, Crimson and Clover. Now, this is my wife's copy, and if you look at it, it's beautiful. It's on roulette, beautiful shape, hardly not a scratch. Played, hardly not a scratch. I'll show you mine copy. This is my copy. You notice I made it a gatefold. It's not too bad. It plays okay, but I mean, it was a party record. I took it with friends. We went to their houses. We played Tommy James and the Shondells. I love this. There are other songs out there that are really good. I really like this album. They did come out, and I don't know too much about this album. They came out something special. I don't think it's as good as Crimson and Clover. But it's something that you might consider if you want to be a Tommy James and the Shondells fan. Like I said, I was a voyeur. That's my take to Mazzy's hometown group, Who's Famous. But like I said, I've been a long-time voyeur of the vinyl community. Like Travis Minor, him, Jeff Kempkin. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I did say too many records. Richard Dolan, I think, is one. Me and Mr. Mayo, Bob Bradley. I like Bob Bradley. It makes me laugh. Mazzy, Norman Maslov, and the Jazz Shepherd. God, man. Those two guys right there. Thank you for watching. I hope I do some more of these. I don't know if I'll have the guts again to do this. I don't usually have a beard. That's my quarantine beard. I promised not to shave until this was all over here in Western Pennsylvania. Thank you for watching. Peace, love, rock and roll. Perla out.